You won't believe me if I tell you. A man in East Kalimantan used a forbidden Dayak oil to steal another man's wife. It worked, until his own skin began to blister, even in an air-conditioned room. Hey, it's me, Samantha. Remember? Sorry for calling you this late. I just got off work, stuck in traffic again. The rain's gone, but the road still smells like burnt asphalt. It's funny how certain smells can take you back to places you thought you'd forgotten. That burnt scent mixed with wet earth, it reminded me of heat. Not the kind you escape with air conditioning or a cold drink, but the kind that feels like it's inside you. Like fire under your skin. I know that sounds weird, but lately I've been thinking about that kind of heat a lot. The kind that doesn't come from the sun at all. It reminded me of someone I met a few years ago when I was doing a documentary internship in Samarinda, East Kalimantan. It was one of those community outreach projects, environmental awareness, local culture, that kind of thing. I was young and eager, still learning how to talk to people without sounding like a script. Samarinda was humid, beautiful, and heavy with stories. Every place had one, about the forest, the river, or the spirits that live between them. You can't be in Borneo without feeling like the jungle's watching you back. That's where I met him, Tora. He wasn't supposed to be part of the documentary, at least not at first. He worked at the same office we were renting space from, a low-level logistics guy, the kind of person you'd pass every day and never notice. But people noticed him eventually. You couldn't help it. He had this strange calm about him, the kind that made silence feel full. He wasn't handsome, not really. But when he looked at you, it was like he was listening with his whole body, like nothing else existed in that moment except you. It was unsettling, but also magnetic. He had this soft voice, and he never raised it, even when he was angry or laughing. I didn't think much of him until one afternoon, one of the older employees pulled me aside and asked if I'd heard about him. Tora? I asked. What about him? She lowered her voice, glancing around the office like she was afraid the walls might overhear. You don't know? He used minyak bintang. At first I thought she was joking. I'd heard of minyak pangasi, love oils, charms. But minyak bintang? She explained it came from deep in the Dayak interior, made through an ancient ritual under a sky that's never been seen by outsiders. They said it glows faintly in the dark, like starlight trapped in a bottle. And when used properly, when bound with intention, it can make anyone fall in love with you. Not just love, obsession. Of course, I laughed. I thought it was just folklore, a story to entertain bored office workers. But the older woman didn't laugh with me. She just looked down and said quietly, he used it on his boss's wife. That's when I realized who she meant. Everyone in the city knew of her. Lena, the elegant wife of Tora's former boss, a wealthy businessman who owned a construction firm. She was beautiful in that way that made people go quiet when she entered a room. Expensive, untouchable. And then one day she left her husband, walked out of her mansion, took her car, her jewelry, everything she could carry, and went straight to Tora. Within weeks, they got married in a small private ceremony. It was the talk of Samarinda. People said she was bewitched, that her eyes changed when she looked at Tora, like she wasn't really there anymore, just following him around like a shadow. I didn't want to believe it. I mean, we live in the 21st century. Love charms, spirits in bottles, it all sounded ridiculous, but the more I saw them, the harder it was to dismiss. Tora and Lena looked wrong together. Not because of their class difference, but because of the way they moved. She used to be graceful, confident. Now she seemed constantly tired, her skin pale, her smile forced. And him, he seemed brighter, sharper, like he was feeding on her glow. Whenever they were in the same room, the air felt heavy. You could almost hear it, like a low vibration humming in your ears. One afternoon, While filming interviews near the river, I saw them standing by the docks. The sunset was casting everything gold, but around them it looked dim, like the light didn't want to touch them. Lena was staring at the water, her reflection trembling with the ripples. Tora had his arm around her, whispering something I couldn't hear. She nodded slowly, blankly. Then he looked up and caught me watching. I swear in that moment, his eyes reflected the sky, but not the blue one above us. It looked like stars, thousands of them moving behind his pupils. I blinked and it was gone. Maybe it was just the glare. Maybe. That night I couldn't sleep. The power went out, and the darkness felt heavier than usual. I lay there listening to the jungle insects outside, and it hit me how alive the night felt in that part of Kalimantan. Everything breathed together, the trees, the air, the shadows. And under that living darkness I kept thinking about his eyes, about that strange glow. A few weeks later, it happened. The news broke out that Lena's ex-husband was found dead. They said he hung himself in his office, left a note about heartbreak and betrayal. It sounded too neat, too clean. People whispered that it wasn't suicide, that the oil demanded a price, that every time it's used, a balance must be paid. When I saw Tora after that, he looked radiant, healthier. His skin glistened faintly, even under fluorescent light. He smiled when he saw me, that quiet, unnerving smile of his, and said, "You shouldn't believe everything you hear." I wanted to ask him if the rumors were true, but I couldn't. Something about his calmness made my words vanish. He wasn't defensive. He wasn't proud, just content, like a man who got everything he wanted and didn't care how. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Sometimes I'd walk past their house on my way back from the market. Even from outside, you could feel it, the heat. Like standing near a furnace, though there was no fire, no smoke. The windows were always shut tight, curtains drawn, as if they were hiding from sunlight or maybe trapping something inside. Once I saw Lena through the glass. She was sitting by the bed, her hand pressed over her chest, her lips moving soundlessly. Her hair was damp, sticking to her face, and her eyes were hollow. She looked up suddenly, right at me. I don't know how. She couldn't possibly have seen me from that distance, through those curtains. But she did, and her expression, it wasn't fear. It was a warning. After that, I stopped walking that route, but Samarinda's not that big, and stories travel fast. People said Lena started seeing things, shadows near mirrors, whispers at night. Some said she begged Tora to stop using the oil, that she felt something crawling under her skin every time he touched her. Others said he grew distant, colder, that he started buying strange things, wooden carvings, small jars sealed with black thread, stones marked with Dayak sigils. There was a rumor that one of his old friends confronted him about it. The next day, that friend was hospitalized after a car crash. He swore before losing consciousness that his brakes failed right after hearing a woman's laughter inside his car, though no one else was there. And through all of it, Tora thrived. His business flourished, his confidence grew. He started wearing nicer clothes, driving luxury cars. He looked like a man kissed by fortune. But whenever he smiled in photos, his reflection never seemed to match his face. A few people noticed it online. His reflection always seemed delayed, just slightly, like it wasn't mimicking him, but waiting for him to finish moving first. I know how it sounds. Crazy, superstitious. But when you live long enough in places like East Kalimantan, you start realizing how thin the air is between the world we see and the one we don't. The locals said Minyak Bintang isn't just a love charm, it's a spirit-binding ritual. The oil isn't oil at all. It's essence of something ancient, something that once fell from the sky and was never meant to be touched. The person who uses it doesn't control it. They just make a deal, and Tora, he was the kind of man who'd think he could handle it. I didn't know it then, but his story, their story, was only just beginning. Tora didn't come to the office for a few weeks after the news of the ex-husband's death. When he finally did, he looked completely different. His skin had this strange, polished glow, almost waxy, and his voice carried a weight that made everyone stop talking when he entered the room. He smiled more often, too, But it wasn't the warm kind of smile. It was practiced, like he knew exactly when to show it and when to turn it off. Everyone treated him differently. Some avoided him entirely. Others clung to him like he was a magnet of good luck. He got promoted, of course, not because he deserved it, but because somehow people wanted to please him. He didn't ask for favors. They offered. They just wanted to be close to him. And then, one by one, things started happening. It began with whispers that the new investor's wife had been hospitalized. A miscarriage. The same thing happened again, a few weeks later, with another business associate's pregnant wife. People didn't talk about it out loud, but you could feel it in the air. Something wasn't right. The wives who met Tora at company dinners or charity events, always women, always young and expecting, seemed to fall sick afterward. Some said it was coincidence. Others said it was punishment. The kind that doesn't leave evidence, just patterns. I remember the first time I saw him again after those rumors started. It was at a small conference event. He looked immaculate. Tailored suit, slicked hair, gold watch glinting under the fluorescent light. But up close, his skin looked tight. Too tight. Like it was stretching to hold something underneath. When I greeted him, he smiled, but the warmth didn't reach his eyes. They looked dimmer now, darker. And when he shook my hand, his skin was hot, unnaturally hot. Not feverish, just burning. He asked how I'd been, small talk, polite as ever. But halfway through our conversation, he went silent. His gaze drifted somewhere past me, as if he was listening to someone else entirely. His lips parted, and for a second, I thought he whispered something under his breath. I didn't catch it, but I swear I felt the air around us shift, as if the temperature dropped. Then he blinked, smiled again, and said, "Sorry, I've been losing sleep. Work, you know? It was the way he said work that bothered me, like he was lying to himself more than to me." I left the conference early. That night I dreamt of him. In the dream, he was standing waist-deep in a river of oil. It wasn't black, though. It shimmered with gold and silver like liquid stars. His face was blank, his hands raised as if praying, and from behind him, something massive and formless was watching. When I woke up, my chest hurt, and my sheets smelled faintly of smoke. I told myself it was just stress. A week later, I ran into Lena at a supermarket. She looked like a ghost. Pale, trembling, her hair dull and thin. She was buying baby formula, even though I hadn't seen her baby. I asked how she was, and she just shook her head. Then she said something that still chills me. "He won't stop using it." I asked what she meant, but her eyes darted around like she was afraid someone was listening. "The oil? It's not done with him. It's never done." She grabbed my arm and leaned in close. "It talks to him when he sleeps. It makes him burn when he doesn't obey. I can smell it when he lies. The stars burn hotter." Before I could ask anything else, she left her cart and hurried away, leaving her groceries behind. I stood there in the middle of the aisle, listening to the faint hum of the freezers, wondering if she was losing her mind, or if she was the only one seeing the truth. That night, the city felt hotter than usual. Even with the rain pouring, there was this dry heat in the air. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what she said. When he lies, the stars burn hotter. A few days later, someone sent me a link to a video. It was from a private business meeting. Someone in the room had secretly recorded it. Tora was presenting to the board. His tone was smooth, confident, the kind of voice that could sell anything. But halfway through, something strange happened. He paused mid-sentence. The video showed him glancing up, like hearing a whisper no one else could. Then he said, "Do you feel that?" No one answered. He started rubbing his hands against his sleeves, fidgeting, muttering that it was hot. The people around him looked confused. The air conditioning was on full blast. One of them asked if he was okay. He didn't respond. He just started unbuttoning his shirt, his voice rising, repeating the same word. "Hot, hot, hot." Then he screamed. It wasn't a human sound. It was sharp, desperate, like something tearing through him. He clawed at his skin, leaving red trails, until people rushed to hold him back. His colleagues said they could smell something burning, like meat left on a grill. He was shaking violently, shouting about the stars, that they were inside him, that they were angry. Security dragged him out of the room. The video cut off there, but someone later said his skin had blistered without fire. After that, he disappeared from public view. Officially, he was on medical leave, but no one saw him in hospitals, and his house remained shuttered. I heard rumors. Someone said he was being treated by a dukun, a traditional healer, out in a village near Tangerang. Others said his wife left him, and that he'd started wandering the jungle at night, barefoot, covered in oil, talking to the sky. I needed to know the truth. I don't know why. It wasn't my business, but something about that story stuck under my skin. I reached out to one of the staff who used to work at his house, an old maid who had been with Lena for years. She was hesitant at first, but when I told her I just wanted to understand, she told me what she saw before she quit. She said there were nights when the whole house glowed faintly, like the walls were reflecting starlight. The light didn't come from lamps or phones. It came from him. She'd find him standing naked in front of a mirror, covered in oil that shimmered like constellations, whispering words in a language she didn't know. Sometimes the reflection moved differently than him, lagging a few seconds behind, then smiling on its own. She said he'd started locking his wife in their bedroom for days at a time, that he didn't let her open the curtains, didn't let her see sunlight. He said the light made the oil jealous. Once the maid caught a glimpse through the keyhole. Lena was lying on the bed, trembling while Tora sat beside her, drawing strange marks on her belly with the oil, whispering that it would protect their child. The maid quit the next morning. She said the smell lingered on her clothes for days, a mix of flowers and something burnt, like metal left in fire too long. After that, I stopped asking questions. I didn't want to know more, but the story kept finding me. Someone from the board mentioned that all of Tora's recent deals had fallen apart. The investors who used to praise him now wanted distance. Some said the wives of those investors were having nightmares, each describing the same thing. A man made of light and ash standing by their beds, whispering in a voice that sounded like Tora's. It was around that time that the last video surfaced. Security footage from the boardroom, the same place where he had his breakdown. It showed him sitting alone after hours, staring at the city lights. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then he looked straight into the camera, as if realizing he was being watched. He smiled faintly, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small glass vial. The oil. He opened it and tilted his head back. The footage glitched, static flickering across the screen, but you could see the faint glow dripping from the bottle onto his skin. He rubbed it over his face, his chest, whispering, "I won't give you the child. Take me instead." The last frame showed his skin beginning to smoke, his lips curling in pain, before the camera went black. That's the last anyone saw of him alive. People said Lena fled that night. Some claimed they saw her wandering barefoot along the main road, soaked in rain, mumbling to herself. Others said she never made it out of the city. The only confirmed thing was that their house burned the next morning. The fire department said it looked like it started from inside the walls, but there were no signs of accelerants. The house didn't burn down entirely, just enough to char everything black, except for the bed in their room. And on that bed, they found a single handprint scorched into the sheets. Small, feminine. For weeks afterward, the town felt different. Hotter, heavier. At night, the air shimmered faintly above the roads, like a mirage, even when it rained. The locals said that was the spirit looking for another vessel. The oil, they said, always needs someone new to carry it, to love through, to burn through. I didn't want to believe it. But a month later, when I went through my old camera footage from the internship, I found a clip I didn't remember recording. It was taken at night in my hotel room. The camera must have turned on by itself. The video showed me asleep in bed, and right before the footage cut, a faint glimmering light spread across the wall, like a single drop of oil glowing in the dark. The next morning, my room smelled faintly of jasmine and smoke. It's hard to explain what happened next, without sounding completely insane. But I guess after all that had already happened, I shouldn't have been surprised. The rumors about Tora, about the oil, had been spreading quietly. But there was this moment when everything escalated at once. And, it was like the city itself started holding its breath. People said they saw lights flickering in his apartment building, high up, even though the power had been cut off weeks ago. They said the windows were glowing like someone had placed lanterns inside. But it wasn't just a warm light. It was harsh, almost white, like molten metal reflecting everywhere. And the smell, oh God, the smell. People kept saying it was something like burnt sugar and hair. Like something alive was cooking slowly. I remember getting a call from an old friend who worked in one of the office towers near Tora's building. He told me he saw him once, through the glass, standing completely still in his apartment, with the city lights reflecting off him. He said Tora's skin seemed wrong. Like it was cracking from the inside. His friend said that every time he blinked, Tora's body seemed to shimmer as if, I don't know, the light itself was trying to escape from him. And then, one night, someone recorded it. There was security footage, and, it was the most horrifying thing I've ever seen. Tora had called a meeting in the company boardroom. He was still dressed formally, as if nothing had changed, but when the board members arrived, they noticed immediately that something was wrong. He was sweating, but it didn't seem like regular sweat. His skin was glowing faintly, blistering, and the heat coming off him was so intense that people had to step back. He was rubbing at his arms and face, whispering words that no one could understand, his voice cracking in this high-pained pitch. He screamed suddenly, and I mean really screamed, like something inside him was tearing apart. He shouted about the oil, about the stars, about how it wanted something he refused to give. The executives froze, some screaming, some trying to flee, and I think even the air conditioning couldn't cool him down. It was, like watching someone being burned alive from the inside. He clawed at his face, at his arms, at his chest, until skin peeled in strips, smoke curling from his fingers. And yet he didn't collapse immediately. It was like the body couldn't let go of life, like the oil or the Khodam inside it was holding him together just enough to suffer. People kept yelling, trying to help him, but they couldn't touch him. The heat burned their hands before they even reached him. They said he shouted over and over, "I won't give you the child. Take me instead. Take me instead." And then he slammed against the table, leaving deep burn marks on the polished wood, as if the heat had scorched it from contact. After that, he disappeared. Officially, they said he was rushed to the hospital, but no records exist. No one saw an ambulance. People whisper that he fled into the jungle near Tangerang to hide, but the city smelled burned for weeks, like embers floating invisibly. A few brave reporters tried to find him in the following days, visiting the apartment, the streets, even the forest edges. And all they found were charred traces of what might have been his belongings, and faint glittering residues of oil that shimmered under the sunlight. And then came the most terrifying part. I heard it from multiple sources, and it all lined up too perfectly. His wife, Lena, was pregnant at the time, right? Everyone thought maybe the Khodam would accept sparing her child if Tora resisted. But, the oil didn't care about mercy. People reported seeing her last night before she disappeared, standing barefoot on the balcony, whispering to the stars. And then she was gone. No taxi, no plane, no footprints. Just gone. Her apartment was left untouched, except for a faint smell of jasmine and burnt metal, and small glimmers on the floor, like spilled starlight. Tora, didn't survive. But what happened to him was final, terrifying, and strangely public. Weeks later, the authorities found him in his luxury bedroom. The building was completely locked, no signs of forced entry, nothing broken. When they opened the door, they couldn't believe what they saw. His body was completely dry, like mummified from the inside out. Skin tight and baked, hair burned to crisp, his eyes nothing but black cinders. It was as if the oil had literally cooked him alive, while keeping him awake long enough to feel every second. The room itself smelled like charred metal and flowers, and there was a faint glow remaining on the walls where the light had reflected off his skin. Nobody could explain it. Medical examiners refused to touch him. Some said his body looked untouched, by fire externally, but internally, it was, like he had been scorched from the inside. And then came the twist, the part that made me think maybe the story isn't done. People claimed that after his death, the pattern continued. New pregnancies in the city, wives of men who knew Tora or had crossed him, started experiencing nightmares. In their dreams, they saw a man made of light and ash, standing over them, whispering promises, threats, murmuring in a language no one could understand. Some women woke up with faint burns on their skin, barely noticeable, but enough to leave them terrified, and the locals whispered that the Khodam, the spirit bound to the oil, had found a new vessel. They said it doesn't die, it just moves, from body to body, seeking someone who could carry its desire, its hunger, its curse. I went back to that old hotel in Samarinda, the one I stayed at during the internship. I thought maybe seeing the place again would give me closure. But the air was heavy, like static electricity before a storm. The smell of jasmine was there, faint, and the faint shimmer of light along the walls made me stop in the hallway. I swear, for a moment, I saw a figure standing at the end of the corridor. Tall, still, silent, with skin that flickered like it was both flesh and molten metal at once. I blinked, and it was gone. But the echo of that presence stayed in my chest. The thing about this story is, it's not just about what Tora did or what the oil demanded. It's about the hunger, about how certain things, once awakened, don't just leave. They linger, they feed, they watch. And sometimes you think you're safe because the person it chose first is gone. But that doesn't mean the curse, or whatever it is, has moved on. It just waits, patient, silent, in the spaces between the light and shadows. I still think about it. I mean, every night. Even now, while I'm telling you all of this, I feel it in the air. The faint smell of burnt jasmine, the almost imperceptible shimmer in the corner of my vision. The heat that isn't there, but presses against my skin. People say it's just my imagination. Maybe it is. But after everything I've seen, felt, and heard, I don't think I'll ever believe that. And that's the final piece. The part no one really talks about. The oil, the Khodam, the cursed desire. It doesn't end with death. It's like fire trapped in a bottle, and every time someone opens it, a spark jumps out. Tora thought he could resist the price. He thought he could protect what he loved. But, love and greed, desire and obsession, they never go quietly. And the oil, the Khodam, it always finds its due. I mean, I've tried to move on, to forget the details, the video clips, the stories, the whispers. But some things cling to you, like shadows that stretch longer at night, or like the faint heat under your skin that never leaves. Sometimes when the city is quiet and the air feels too still, I swear I can hear the faintest whisper of Tora's voice. Not angry, not even human, but something like a promise, or a warning, that the hunger never stops, and that maybe it's still out there, waiting for someone else. Thank you for listening to me. I really appreciate you letting me get this off my chest. I guess sharing it makes it a little less heavy, Just, keep your windows closed tonight and maybe try not to think about oil that glows like stars. Have a good sleep, bye.